Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to find out what's hiding under this bright teal paint that has been slapped all over this beautiful MCM coffee table. Overall, the piece seems to be in good condition. There were a few minor damages and one of the legs had a chip in it, but we'll fix that later. This is a Bowcraft piece of furniture, which is a company that started, I believe, in 1941 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I believe in Canada, the Elmer Furniture Co. sold and probably manufactured their products as well. I live in Canada, and the person selling it said it was made in Canada, but who knows for sure because it's been so long. Feel free to comment any information about Bowcraft or this piece. Anyways, let's get started. I started off this project scraping the paint off with my Baco carbide paint scraper. I could tell from the start the paint was coming off nicely, but I could tell it was stuck in the wood grain, and I was thinking of ideas as I was scraping it away, how we are going to remove this. Do you think I can use this old paint as birthday streamers? That's what it reminded me of. After scraping most of the paint off the top of the table, I thought it's time to use some paint stripper because the paint was just deep inside the wood grain. So I'm going to apply a nice amount of this paint stripper on the top and the sides, and we are going to let it sit for some time. Hopefully it'll help remove the paint stuck in the grain. Paint stripper works best when you apply it pretty thick and it stays wet, so I'm going to put this garbage bag on it, and I left it there for a little while along with this plastic wrap. It just kept the stripper wet, and then after about, I think it was a couple hours, I left this on, and then I came back, tested the corner here with the scraper, and the scraper was not removing the paint very well in the wood grain, so I grabbed a wire brush and started scraping the stripper into the wood grain, and it seemed to remove the paint in the grain better. So I'm going to have to do that throughout the whole piece. So this is going to be a time-consuming process. I also tested putting some low odor mineral spirits on there and scraped, and then I used a steel wool pad. The mineral spirits did seem to work pretty well, but there is still paint in the grain, so we're going to have to come back to this later on. But I'm gonna do my best through the first pass here to see what we're dealing with. On the sides and the base of the table, I'm using the scraper to scrape as much off before I start using the wire brush again. Here is what it looks like the next day after my first attempt with the stripper. So now I'm going to use a wire brush and see if it will come out when it's dry. It's hard to tell on camera, but there still is a bit of paint in the wood grain deep in there. I cleaned up the dust with a tack cloth, and we are going to move on to the bottom to remove all the paint on the base. I spent hours scraping and brushing this piece, and the paint just wasn't coming out that easy, and I knew a sander would be a lot easier. So I have big news. I just started renting a garage, and I transitioned in the middle of this project and started working in this space. I first installed these bright shop lights. And then almost broke my ankle. But in all seriousness, I'm really excited to get started in this workspace, and all I need is your support to keep these videos going. So if you like my videos and want to see more this year, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I haven't used this guy in a while. What we're gonna do is attach a foam pad, and I'm using these 3M mesh sanding discs. It's 150 grit. I'm going to start by sanding the base because it's solid wood and I don't have to worry about going through the veneer. I use this scraper tool here to remove some paint in the deep corners. I also picked up this pick tool set to go around in any areas that I can pick out paint. Now I'm using a walnut wood filler. I'm just going to patch in this spot here that had some damage. I decided to fill in any of the crack areas that still had paint that I couldn't remove. This filler will just hide the paint even better. After I removed all the paint from the base, I had to move on to the top, which is a thin layer of veneer. I decided to sand using my random orbital sander, but I had to be really careful not to go through the veneer. So it's hard to see on video, so I took a picture on my phone. Here is what it looks like after sanding. You can still see some paint in the grain. I decided another coat of stripper was the way to go. Using the brush here with mineral spirits on it actually was working the best. So I started noticing some paint actually come out. So I continued to do that and it turned out pretty good. I let everything dry. Now I started sanding the bottom here just to clean it up, and I made sure not to go over the marking area. Now I'm sanding everything with 240 grit one last time before we can start staining the piece. I sanded the base edges by hand just to make sure they were rounded nicely. Then I sanded the filler area smooth with the 400 grit sandpaper. After everything, it's finally time to start staining, so I used a tack cloth, clean up all the dust, and I'm using General Finishes Candlelight Gel Stain, so we are going to apply this right now. The process is simple. You just rub it on thick and then you rub it all off. But make sure you rub it all off because if you leave any thickness, it'll be blotchy and it won't look nice. After rubbing it on, I just rubbed it all off and then let it dry overnight. I'm using this Beauty Tone lacquer to seal the piece. I haven't used this product before, but it was what was available at my nearby hardware store. So let's get spraying. I did 3 coats of lacquer in total. I'm using a gloss finish as well, so this is going to give it a nice gloss sheen. Before putting the coffee table back together, I sprayed the brackets with Crud Cutter, then sanded them, and I also did the same to the little protectors on the bottom. And finally, it was back together. Let's take a look at this table one more time before, with all the paint still on it. And here is what it looks like after. I really liked how this table turned out. I think removing that paint was a great idea, and the wood looks unbelievable underneath. Let me know what you think this table is worth now. Couldn't find any exact comps, but the Lane Rhythm coffee table is very similar, and this one sells for lots online, so let me know what you think it's worth. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and you could also sign up for my email newsletter in the description below. Thanks so much. See you in the next one.